Investing platform eToro to delist 4 crypto assets. I'm going to change that to crypto assets for U.S. users next month. And the reason why they're doing this is because of what's going on with the SEC. Basically, customers will no longer be able to open new positions in Algo, which was, Gary Gensler, he loved that token. It was one of his favorites. We saw him talking about it. Mana, Dash, and Matic. Dash, I understand because I feel like it's kind of a privacy coin, but is. But the other ones, I feel like they're just kind of following suit and doing whatever Robinhood is doing and the other big companies are doing because they don't want to get caught in the legal battle. I do know that eToro does definitely run on the up and up, so it makes sense that they would be delisting these assets to kind of protect themselves because we don't know what the SEC is going to do next. Zach, you're nodding, so I'll toss this to you.
I'll take it. I will take it, and I will run with it. Yeah, you got to play safe. These companies, they don't want to run afoul of the law. They don't want to be the next one who are like in the sights of Gary Gensler's SEC. So if they're out there, if the SEC is out there saying, hey, these assets look like securities to us, we saw this with Robinhood, and now we're seeing it with eToro, they're going to follow suit and pull those from their platforms. And I think, to sort of the 3D chess and the speculation around what the SEC's endgame is, this could be part of it, right? You make these allegations in suits, in complaints against exchanges, not against these token issuers or these foundations that are producing these, that initially issued these tokens. You're making these claims against exchanges, right? And then other exchanges, other trading platforms follow suit. They don't want to get in trouble. Suddenly the liquidity for some of these tokens dries up pretty significantly. And those projects themselves start feeling the pinch as opposed to just the exchanges that are named in these SEC complaints. So I think that sort of does comport with what people are speculating as to how the SEC is approaching this. They're saying, okay, well, they're not well-resourced enough to go after these issuers. If we go after some prominent exchanges, others will follow suit, and it will achieve the SEC's assumed intent of limiting access to these assets on the behalf of the American investing public. So it is fascinating to watch. I think all these companies sort of turn tail and say, hey, we don't want this fight. Coinbase, you can fight that fight. Binance, you can fight that fight. We're out. Like, we're just going to stay safe, and we're going to delist these until like we're going to take an abundance of caution, right? So watching this play out, there's going to be more platforms that do this. I think initially there was like enforcement fatigue, and I didn't expect people to necessarily follow suit as quickly. But obviously we're seeing that the Coinbase suit specifically, people are taking that seriously and saying, hey, if we're offering these on our platform, we better think twice. And you have eToro and Robinhood doing that potentially more. I don't know. I'm going to toss it to Jen.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you, Zach. The risk isn't worth the reward. So it wouldn't make good business sense to see what's happening with regulation and then to just say, we're going to continue offering these tokens. And if the SEC comes for us, then, we'll just deal with it. I think this makes complete sense when you think about the conversations that platforms like Robinhood and eToro are having behind closed doors. They are still offering some tokens. They're not delisting everything, but these ones that are being mentioned in the lawsuits are going. I wanted to note that some of the foundations have come out and responded to these SEC allegations, while some have remained quiet. I think the other day I said on the show that IOG, the Cardano developer, has said they completely do not agree with the SEC, that ADA is not a security. And Solana Foundation recently said on Twitter that the Solana Foundation disagrees with the characterization of Sol as a security. But I don't think that that's going to be enough for these platforms to keep the tokens on board. Before I toss it off to you, Will, I wanted to also mention that many of these tokens, I believe it was Solana, Cardano, and Polygon, took a big hit over the weekend. I think sliding as much as 30%. And some data that CoinDesk reported on said that big market makers like Jump Trading and Cumberland could have been behind that. So it's not just the platforms, it's the market makers too that are saying, we don't really want to deal with this right now. We're going to wait until we get some more clarity. Will?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on here because these markets are just so complex. The one thing I want to bring up goes back to what Zach was saying. It's just like these companies are going to start delisting these products. The liquidity will dry up, and then the price of these tokens will drop off. And then over time, maybe these teams will fail because their token has failed because there's no price action, or there's just no interest. And so the community dies off, and therefore the token also sort of dies off. But that might not be the case for some of these teams that were decentralized from the start. And I think that, again, could be an interesting play over the next 2-3 years. We'll see who survives this round of the SEC bloodbath because they were built from it from the start. So take Polygon Matic, for example. Polygon is sort of like the overarching team. Matic was the first name for the token. changed a few times, but more or less that's their product, right? And they have a lot of different things that they're building. Mostly their team has been built out of India, and they continue to build over there. That might help them out in this case, right? Where the SEC might have jurisdiction within the US, and might be going after these US-based exchanges, don't want Polygon Matic in the hands of US-based consumers. But if your team is not really based in the US and you're in a more friendly jurisdiction, you might be okay. Not saying that India is necessarily a friendly crypto jurisdiction. We've talked about that a lot in the show. But there are rules there. There are rules to how to build there. And the team has been building there for a while. So they might be able to figure it out. And that's just one token example. I'm sure that a lot of these other tokens are going to be able to figure out how to survive in a world outside the US. And maybe over time, if we continue to see like the waffling from the SEC administrations as a new president comes into power, we might see the doors open up and then these teams can come back to the US. Zach?
Yeah, if this is the ultimate test of decentralization, that would be quite ironic, right? You see some comments from the Bitcoin community saying Bitcoin is anti-fragile to state attacks, right? Can some of these newer layer ones also say the same thing over these next 12 to 18 months? That could be really interesting to watch.